Hello everyone. In this video, video lecture 1.3, Becoming an Active Learner, we'll just talk about how the brain learns. So that's the question. How does the human brain learn, and what is our part in making that a little bit better for us? So to be a successful learner, or to become a successful learner, it really helps if you know how to get the most out of your mental abilities. Okay, and again, it's very active. And in fact, in the brain, we have what's called neurons. They're right down here. And if we can get the neurons together, what's called firing together, they create a neural network. This is what a neural network looks like down here. After they learn, they connect connectors. Okay, and that's called memory trace. And when they fired neurons, and when I say fire, if your brain were hooked up to those nodes, neurologists do that. There's electronic uh, emitters or emittances that they can that scientists can see, that they can map. And in fact, that's why you're supposed to drink water before a test, because electricity conducts better in water, and you're hydrated and your brain works better. That's why dehydrated people get kind of ooh, because their brain isn't working properly. It's really fascinating. I've done a lot of course taking workshops and a couple of books, and it's really kind of cool. Not a brain expert, but it really is kind of cool. So the bottom line is this: if you want things to go from upfront into your long-term memory, you've got to come up with some strong neural networks. Okay, you want neural connections. So the these three principles of deep learning that we're about to talk about actually help the brain form those neural connectors, those memory traces. So you want to become an active learner. Just like sports is physical, you got to practice. Learning, you've got to practice. It's as physical. There are physical things that are taking place in your brain. We say it's mental, but they're actually happening. All right. So you want to be an active participant in the learning process. And three things that can help you do that, or principles, are prior learning, quality of processing, and quantity of processing. Now, the prior learning is really kind of cool. It's what you already know. Please don't think that this is just what you've learned in a book or in a class, or if you're in in Math 2, what you learned in Math 1. No, it's whatever you know that is applicable to the new items that you're learning. The author here gives the Microsoft or WordPerfect in the Microsoft example. Um, my dad is a woodworker, so he knows a ton of stuff now. He's 85, but you add tools as you go along. You're not learning each tool by itself. It's related. I play cards, so if I'm learning a new card game, if I know how to play hearts and spades where there's trump, then learning bridge, which is more complicated, is less complicated because there's trump, and it's kind of connected. So if you acknowledge what you know and apply it, it'll help. Also, if you figure out where you're going to apply this new knowledge, that's also helpful. Quality of processing is strategies that will help you learn the new material and put it into long-term memories. All right, so there are different strategies to do that, and we're going to learn some as we go on. All right, but it's active. You've got to be a part of it. Okay, and then the quantity of processing is here time on task, but it's not just 4 hours. That doesn't mean time on task. This ITAL is very, very important. You've got to distribute the time over a period of time. Better to study 30 minutes 4 times a week, over 4 times a week, than 3 hours 1 time a week. Sounds not logical, but it is. It really works. I'm gonna show you. Is this where I mentioned Dr. Wolf? It is. Dr. Pat Wolf, I took a seminar with her, and then my wife actually went on to take the class. She's an education specialist in the brain. I read her book. Can't remember what it's called right now, but she's the one who explained, and I've used it ever since. Um, let's say you're studying for your history exam. Well, you don't want to study everything at once. So you study, um, pick out, a section like we're doing here. There are 4 sections of the book. You pick out one section, you look over what it's talking about. Here, the 3 strategies or principles. You tell yourself that you're going to be doing those strategies. You study them, discuss them, talk about them, chew on them, take notes. And then at the end of 10, 15, 20 minutes, you say, okay, here's what I did. I talked about strategies for being an active learner, and it's quantity of time, quality, and prior knowledge. And you talk to yourself about that. Then you take a little break, and then you go on to the next thing. By the way, that is why we're asking you to check in. I'm asking you to check in 3 different times a week. It's not to be a pain, it's to help you learn better. Okay? So that also is a really good strategy for memorizing. Okay? So again, those are the 3 principles of deep and lasting learning. Okay? This is a little hard because people, I'm not a doctor. I'm a French and language, French and Spanish teacher and student success. Um, Most people have troubles or struggles, not because they're not smart enough. I've taught for 25 years. I've had one student who I had a trouble getting to, who went on to be successful. Um, Everybody is smart enough to do what they need to do. And if you'll stop a minute and think, I think you'll agree. If you do have what you think is a learning disability, do see the folks in student disabilities through Building 100, the annex between Building 100 and the student cafeteria on the Daytona campus. But mostly it's just getting a system down that you will help you learn. And everyone has to come up with their own system. I'm not a note card user, but a lot of people like note cards. Okay. All right, there's a system called the Core Learning System. Nice little acronym here, CORE, collect, organize, rehearse, and evaluate. So if you wanted to memorize this, you'd say, boy, I'm going to memorize the Core Learning System. And CORE, C-O-R-E, stands for collect, organize, rehearse, and evaluate. So that's how you do that. That's what acronyms will do for you. And you can create your own acronyms. So you're going to collect the information. And in college, normally that's by attending class, online or in person, and reading textbooks, course handouts, and all of that. And there are many more. We're going to talk more about that in chapters 2 or 3. You've got to organize it. And by that, I don't mean just stuff it in a notebook. I mean, your organization should help you make sense of it. All right? So how you study it, all of that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about that later on as well. You have to rehearse, repeat, practice, go over, review, pick a word, but here it's rehearse because it's C-O-R-E. And the more you do that, the better it is. All right? We'll talk about that as well. Okay? I guess what comes to me is an actor goes to rehearsals. He learns his line. He practices his lines, learns how to deliver them, what they mean. And before you know it, you have a very good actor. They don't trip over their lines. They're very smooth. That takes time, and not a one sitting time. That takes over time. So all of these things are true, and they apply to everything. And then evaluate. Now, evaluation doesn't have to be formal. It can be informal, and it can be a term paper, or it can be you quizzing a friend. I'm going to give you another little testimony or example. When my daughter, this was a long time ago, they're all growing and gone, but when she was in 8th grade, my youngest girl had a social studies test coming up. And it was on government. And so my wife and I were in the front seat. We were heading back from my dad's from DeBerry to DeLand. And my wife, Margaret, said, Kate, what's going on? Oh, I've got, Mrs. Clark's giving us a test tomorrow on what? Government. We just started quizzing her. And she said, how do you know all this? How do you know this is what we're talking about? And we said, well, it's government, so it's going to have to be applied prior knowledge. We started asking her questions. And one question led to another. And we had about 20 minutes in the car and went over. She answered. she looked, I think she, I don't want to make anything up, I think she looked up a couple of things when we got home. She got an A on the test, and she was shocked. I didn't study at all, she said. I said, well, yes, you did. We studied together. It never occurred to her that that was or evaluation or study. So, think outside the box. Okay, but we'll talk more about this in upcoming chapters as well. Okay, I'm going on a little bit here. So now you're ready for your journal entry and some other stuff. One student stories. Those are really kind of cool. And on-course principles. Um, these will help you be successful everywhere. Okay? Alrighty. Hope everything is going well, and I'll see you soon in the cyberspace.